All right, everyone, welcome back. Welcome to another class, another episode of Being a Fan of Disney, the podcast. And I am joined today by two of the three hosts of a really, really cool new podcast that I came across, a baseball podcast named Glove Actually. And so we'll get into the name here in a little bit because that's one of the awesome parts about the show. Um, but I am joined by Courtney and Hallie, which, as I said, are two of the three hosts of Glove Actually. Melissa can't be with us. Um, and so, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about baseball. We will talk about the podcast. We'll also talk about the fact that Courtney and Hallie used to, or in some cases, are still working with the Walt Disney Company. And so, um, we'll get into all of that. But first, Courtney, Hallie, welcome to the show. It's really really fun to have you two.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be here. Yeah.
So the first thing is like an origin story for both of you.
Yeah.
And so basically, I guess the first question really is, how did you begin to follow baseball? Like, how did you get introduced to baseball? And then kind of briefly take us from there to now that you two are two of the three hosts of a baseball podcast.
Yeah. I was originally born in Baltimore. I watched a lot of baseball growing up with my dad. Baseball was always kind of a pretty big part of our lives. My dad played a lot of baseball growing up. My grandfather was his coach when he played baseball. And when I was growing up, whenever we had an opportunity to go to Camden Yards to see an Orioles game, we got to go do that. I got to see Cal Ripken Jr. play a few times, which was really exciting. Um, and then minor league baseball was also a big thing for us. Whenever we went down to Ocean City over on the shore, we would see the Delmarva Shorebirds play. At one point when I was younger, when I was like 12, 13 years old, we had season tickets to the Aberdeen Ironbirds. So we were all up in the Orioles feeder system. And I had a chance to watch a lot of baseball when I was growing up. And I think that's where a lot of like my nostalgia came from, was just being there with my family, specifically being there with my dad. Um, and as I got older, I got more into my own hobbies, which were more aligned with like dance, theater, performing, that sort of thing. So I always kind of had my finger on the pulse of what was going on with the Orioles, but I wasn't as avid a fan as I am now. Within the last few years, my schedule's kind of like opened up a little bit so where I can follow a little bit more closely. Um, and a couple of years ago, I started like financing my own way to the games. When I started going, Hallie would go with me.
Okay.
And so I sort of latched on to one specific player.
Okay.
And my favorite player from the last couple of years has been Ryan O'Hearn. And this year, I ended up making a Ryan O'Hearn Instagram fan account just because I was like, nobody else is giving him the recognition he deserves. So as I did that, I started to become friends with more content creators who were in like that sort of baseball fan account environment. Sphere. Yeah, in that sphere on Instagram. And yeah, when once I had been doing that, I was talking Hallie's ear off a lot about baseball by that point. So she was like, somebody else had invited me to go on their podcast and talk about the Orioles, talk about Ryan O'Hearn. And Hallie was like, I think that you should have your own podcast so that you can start talking about the things that you want to talk about. And, we could talk about all kinds of stuff. So in all reality, the podcast was Hallie's idea. I need everyone to know that. So the podcast was Hallie's idea. Um, and so we started kind of like throwing around some ideas. And Melissa was one of the creators that I had met through my Ryan O'Hearn Instagram account. And she also is she has an Orioles fan account, but she also has like a Bookstagram account where she talks about books. That's like another one of her big
Hmm.
hobbies. So we initially like approached her with the idea that she would do a pre-recorded recommended media segment every week, and then we would sort of work that in and figure out how we would loop it back into whatever theme we were talking about for the week. And when we recorded our first episode, we were like, okay, we need to like test run with a guest. So we had her come on as our guest. And after that, we were like, well, you're a host now. It just ended up working out so well. The chemistry was really natural and it flowed really well with the three of us. We all just bounced off of each other really well. So I just like to think it was meant to be.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Hallie, do you want
Yeah.
to add anything? How did you
No,
get introduced to baseball?
Very similar to how Courtney was introduced. My dad loved baseball, and he still does. And I was very lucky to grow up in a town with two baseball teams, one major, one minor league team, uh, the St. Paul Saints and the Minnesota Twins. So we went to a lot of Saints games growing up. So I have a very special love of the minor leagues, at least my minor league. And my favorite games that we got to see over the last couple of years have been minor league games. I just think there's something so special and fun at those events. I think the way minor league teams are able to engage with fans is so different from the way major league teams
Hmm.
are because there's less publicity staring at them constantly. Um, and honestly, the way we got to the podcast is we just have so much fun chatting with each other during the games. Like Courtney's one of the funniest people I've ever met, and she just would crack me up at the games, and I needed the world to hear how funny she is.
Okay. Awesome.
And so,
Thank you.
yeah, it's been like I recommended podcasts because I see so many like boring men with really cold takes start podcasts and have lots of success. And here I have a delightful friend with very interesting takes. So why can't if they can do it, why can't she?
Well, and that's actually something that I want to talk a bit about. But I guess let's hold off on that because there are other
Okay.
questions there because there is a question that I want to get into that and kind of talk about. And I said um, when I reached out, like I don't listen to baseball podcasts because I they are a lot of that. It's either a lot of it is kind of this, and we talk about it in class a lot, these manufactured argument shows that are on television.
Yeah,
And there are unfortunately there are a lot of those on television because they are popular
of
because
course.
that's in our society we like to see people argue. Um, and so when I first came across Glove Actually, um, it was really, really entertaining to me, very refreshing to me that one, you kind of have you have different takes on everything. And it's not necessarily about the um kind of the ins and outs or the X's and O's of baseball. It's
Yeah,
more about
about the
enjoying
facts
the
and
game.
figures and more about like
The experience and joy.
and what makes
Yeah.
it exciting to every person.
Yeah. And so that actually, I think I know, Courtney, at least, I think I know your favorite team. Hallie, growing up in Minnesota, are the Twins your favorite team, or are you
So
also an
they're my
Orioles
favorite
fan?
major league team. The Saints are my real favorite team, and
Okay.
they're one of the Twins' minor league affiliates, and they just also happen to be in town with us.
Okay.
All of my most fun baseball memories are St. Paul Saints, and then my second most fun baseball memories are the Twins.
You know what's so fun about minor league baseball? I remember going to my first minor league baseball game. I grew up an hour north of Houston. So
Okay.
we used to drive to and we used to go see the Astros at the Astrodome
Mm-hmm.
um a lot when I was a kid. kid tickets were $1, adult tickets were $3 in the outfield. It was all bleachers. You first come, first serve. We literally
Mhm.
would get to the game sometimes 2 or 3 hours before to watch batting practice because the players would like play catch with the kids and everything. And it was really, really cool. And in some ways makes me sad that like my kids will not have the relationship with baseball that I had because
Yeah.
it's just it's much more expensive to do that now.
Yeah. I feel like it's
And
also it's a lot of it is sensationalized too,
yeah,
especially and it's from the time the players get drafted. If there's enough notoriety surrounding a player, that press coverage will follow them, and that notoriety and that air of pomp and circumstance will follow them all the way up until they debut with the majors.
yeah. And so when I went to my first minor league baseball game is really when I saw, I remember vividly during one of between two innings, the umpire like started dancing. And I
Yeah.
thought that doesn't happen. Like I've never seen that happen before. And it was something that I was there with my mom and she was talking about it a lot. Like you don't see this at Major League Baseball games. And so it's very true that they have to find creative ways to engage with fans. I live right outside of Memphis, Tennessee, and we have the Redbirds here, which is the AAA
Mhm. I
club
gotcha.
for the Cardinals.
Okay.
And they're a lot. Some of our students will work with them, and they're doing like the in stadium announcements and everything. And uh, this last summer we were there because the baseball hat I'm wearing is actually there was a we had a team of rec players that played in a select tournament, or
Okay.
tried to play in a select tournament. The tournament was rained out, so but we were the Armadillos, so we went and we had like a day at the Redbirds game where like the players were introduced with the minor league players and everything, and then because it's the minor leagues, when we're there doing that with the team then all of a sudden all the kids are getting asked to do like, hey, during the third inning, can you do the hacky or can you do the like, potato sack race during this inning? Can you do that? And
Yeah.
I even like did like a song game or something. Um, and so it's just it is much more accessible.
Yeah.
Um, in part because it's a lot more difficult to get crowds there. Um, if it's unless it's in a really like if it's in a
A high
really good
traffic
place, it's not
neighborhood.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
like there's a team close to my sister, the Round Rock Express, that their games are probably 50-60% full each night. When I go to a Redbirds
Yeah.
game, it's 10 to 15% full. But um, so what do you think it is, and you both talked about nostalgia, and that's definitely when people are introduced typically through family members and through close friends, and so the nostalgia plays a role in how why we follow an activity.
Of
But
course.
why do you think baseball, just kind of the 30,000 foot view, what do you think it is about the game of baseball that makes it so special when you kind of compare it to other sports?
I personally, I really identify with the quote from Moneyball. How can you not be romantic about baseball? I think baseball is arguably the most romantic sport. I think that there is so much to be said for the experience of just sitting in the stadium enjoying a hot dog and a soda. There's so much to be said for like the excitement of catching a foul ball, the ability to, if you're sitting in the outfield, you're not as close to the action as for the majority of the action. But if you're right near the splash zone and Cedric Mullins comes up and makes a beast of a catch in front of you, that's instantly a memory. And I think it provides a lot of inherent kinship with the people around you, because you're all there supporting the same cause. I think that ultimately the league is making strides to make it a more enjoyable sport to watch. I personally think the pitch clock revolutionized how
Hmm.
people watch baseball. It used to be if you were going to go to a baseball game, it was going to take 6 hours or it could have taken 3 hours. You didn't really know, but your day was taken up with the baseball game.
Hmm.
Now you can kind of guarantee that it's going to go somewhere between maybe 2 and 3 hours, and then you'll be finished and you'll be able to move on and do something else with your day. Um, I also think that for people who are fans, like I, for people who are baseball fans and who try to watch as many games as possible, I think that towards the beginning of the season, it doesn't really matter if they flounder a little bit. I think once you start to watch them win, like once they're on a winning streak, that feels really good. There's also, I feel like there's always potential until you get to maybe like August when you're like, okay, I think this, the 2025 Orioles season was very much like that. Once we got to August, we were like, okay, I think we're cooked a little bit. But it's really nice to watch your team win and again to experience that kinship with the other people around you. um it's easy to get into for just a few games.
Hmm.
It's fun to watch if you just watch one single series. It's fun. Oh yeah, they won tonight. They didn't win the second game, but who's going to win the series? Like that's inherently very, like, the stakes are a little bit higher. it's
Hmm.
it's lots of fun to watch, and there are so many different levels of fandom that you can have when it comes to baseball. You can have any sort of percent of commitment, I'm going to say. Um, and you're still able to enjoy the game all the same.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's really special about baseball that a lot of other professional sports, I'm mostly thinking about football right now because we're in the heart of football season.
Yeah.
Baseball has a much lower knowledge barrier to enter than say
Yes.
football does.
Hmm.
You person at home base hits a ball and then they try to take a lap,
Yeah.
and they just have to race the ball around the bases. Um, I think for that reason, it makes it so much easier for people to just watch casually and come in and out. I know for a fact I'm a much more casual viewer and fan than Courtney or even Melissa are. Uh, I'm just here to have fun, and that's something I say all the time.
She
I'm
does. She
yeah.
says that all the time on the
Mhm.
podcast.
I'm there to watch some running, see some hitting, maybe have a little hot dog or something, and then cheer for for a good game.
And eat your
Yeah.
Mr. Softee ice cream.
Yeah, and eat the ice cream.
So I definitely agree with what I tell the kids on our team is baseball is something that if you're watching it, you can have it on in the background and it's just kind of that ambient noise,
Yeah.
which I think is a lot of the reason why MLB.TV has like the ambient noise or like the baseball zen or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Um, but then if you are, you can then be invested in it as well. And you can watch and you can pay attention to everything. I grew up, I played catcher my whole like baseball
Okay.
career. And I didn't like I didn't play in college and I played in a men's league, so I'm not like a high level player. But when I grew up playing that position, I was lucky enough that the coaches I had taught me how to call pitches, call a game, look at the different strategies. So basically, and I had coaches tell me, like, you're basically, the catcher is the field general or the quarterback or the coach on the field, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And I think that has added to my enjoyment so much because
Mhm.
now if I can just watch a game and not pay that much attention to it. But if I want to pay attention to it, then I still can kind of go back to those days of like, hey, what would I do in this situation? What would
Mhm.
I want to do? And that's very different for me than a lot of other sports, I think.
Yeah.
And so that is really, really cool. I think, when somebody another really cool thing I think about baseball, and this is primarily at the professional level, because even at the college level, they play 60 something games. So that's a lot, but it's not, it's not
It's not
162.
162, yeah.
Um, that I think it's really cool that when in coaching youth baseball, what I found is if a kid goes 0 for 3 in a game, or they have 2 games where they don't get a hit, or 3 games where they don't get a hit, like that's devastating. And or
Mhm.
they'll go, when you play a youth season of 15 games, you might have some kids that don't get a hit, or they struggle making contact. And what's so fascinating at the professional level is those youth kids that struggle to get a hit, maybe they get 1 hit out of 20 at bats. At the professional level, that's like, a rough week and a half,
Yeah.
if that. That's a slump. And so it's a really cool thing to be able to teach, like, hey, this is like, it seems like it's so important right now, but if you stretch this out and if people were playing more games, like this kind of stuff happens all the time. And
Yeah.
that's also, I mean, that's the way life is. Like
Yeah.
every day of life is not super exciting. It's kind of the grind and you're gonna struggle and all of this stuff that's really, really cool. As I said, I first learned about Courtney and Hallie and Melissa through uh, I I think it was through Instagram or something. I saw a post that said like you had started a new podcast. Um, it was an all woman podcast about baseball, and I decided to give it a listen. And to my excitement, I think I came in on probably like episode 11 or 12, and so like I went
Yeah.
back and listened. I don't think I've listened to everything, but I've gone back and listened to a lot of them. Uh, and so it was really, it's a really, really cool idea. And so you two kind of covered how you came up with the idea, that it
Yeah.
was Hallie's idea. Um, so then the next thing I had jotted down on that though was the name is amazing. That was
Thank
one of the
you.
first things that drew me to it. Um, were there any other ideas for names that you were going to use?
We went through a lot
Yeah.
of them. Courtney came up with a lot of really cute ideas.
So when I was exploring names for the podcast, I definitely wanted something pun based. So something that I was important to me was that it was feminine, but it was also immediately recognizable as baseball. So that was part of the branding and part of what we wanted to kind of explore in terms of our tone and how we wanted to produce our content. We threw around a lot of titles with the word pitch. So like pitch please, pitch perfect. Um, uh, there were a lot of other glove names, but we settled on glove actually. We also looked up a lot of the titles that we had sort of narrowed it down to. We had like a short list of I think like 4 or 5, and we looked everything up just to see if there were any other existing um, uh, properties with those names. And I think Pitch Perfect was one of like our last round contenders that we were really leaning towards. But Pitch Perfect had like 6 other podcasts with that
Yeah.
name. Some of them were like baseball related, some of them were music related, etc. There was nothing that was glove actually, and I was a little shocked to be completely honest. But once we settled on it, it felt really natural, and it's just something that like whenever we tell people what the name of the podcast is, we get a very similar reaction. They're like, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant!" And that's probably one of the most validating things that I've ever like received in my life. Period. It's just knowing that the name of the podcast is just so widely accepted and embraced as just like something so cool. But yes, inherently we wanted something super feminine and immediately recognizable and brandable as baseball.
Okay. So, and it's it's really cool that like you also, because it's called Glove actually, like you call listeners Glovelies, at the end. I can't remember exactly what it is, but you say like "stay glovely,"
Yeah.
like just like the play on words is awesome. And
Yeah.
so it is really fun. It's one of the first things that got me to listen to the podcast. Did you ever think like we briefly discussed it, but did you ever think about making this podcast instead of like just kind of fun and enjoyment of the game? Did you ever think about talking about the statistical side of it or kind of the strategy side of it? Was that ever a discussion?
We briefly considered it before the podcast went live. We had this idea that during the season we would watch a game and discuss it and then put out the episode immediately. And I think for the better that didn't pan out.
Yeah, that's not what ended up happening.
I think for the at least for how I engaged with the podcast and how I engaged with baseball and being a fan of the sport, I think that would kind of lose its novelty pretty quickly because there are so many podcasts that do that already.
Mm-hmm.
And there aren't a lot of podcasts that do what we do. And if I wanted to listen to stats about baseball, I could find one of many accounts to do that for me.
Yeah, and so I and like I said, I think it's so refreshing that um it is the way that it is, that the focus is on more the enjoyment of it. I for my like for me listening, I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't listen to other baseball podcasts that are talking about strategy and they're talking about statistics and things like that. Like, sorry, the things that are really good for those are, the short 20 to 30-second videos that you can find on Instagram or
Yeah.
YouTube or something like that. There's an account I recently found, a woman. The account is called Brooke Knows Baseball, that is really interesting, and she kind of gets into in a 20 to 30-second video of like these new stats that she's come up with and everything, which is I think that's a really good way to kind of get that. Um, so the show's structure,
Yeah.
um, you have typically you'll have, and sometimes you have guests on there. Sometimes it's just the three of you. You'll typically go through a top five. At the end, you have a recommended media, which I do. I have something to talk about Fever Pitch and recommended media. So if I forget, please remind me.
Oh,
But
please.
it starts out well, and then you end with who do you hope has a good time or who do you hope has fun. Um, it starts out with uh, people naming their Pookie, and so
Yeah. Cookie of the
context
week.
clues. Context clues. I think I know what it means. It's also been a really long time since I've heard that word used, or I'm not sure if I've ever used that word. So what is if for the show? What is a Pookie?
So Pookie is personally for me, Pookie's a state of mind.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Pookie's someone who can be classified as a Pookie displays a lot of like wholesome or almost sweetheart, silly behavior. So anybody that has a lot of silly goose qualities is generally Pookie material. So when I describe the criteria for a Pookie of the week, it doesn't necessarily have to be the best player. It doesn't have to be who's hitting the most home runs. It doesn't have to even be someone from the team that you like have the most fandom for.
It doesn't even have to be a real person.
It's true. Hallie has chosen like concepts. She chooses real people. She chooses mascots as her Pookie. So although a lot of times it is someone from the team that you support the most, it doesn't necessarily have to be. So they're just someone that you love, someone you have fandom for that you just want to shout out just for being them. So when I pick my Pookie of the week, I try to think about who's been on my mind a lot lately, whether it's because they've had like a really good week or if they had a really bad week. But I've also been trying to, especially in the off season, because they're not playing right now, I'm trying to expand my horizons, look into all the different corners of the baseball world to figure out, who's someone that I find really interesting that I want to shout out. And it's important to me that the listeners, or the Glovelies, as we refer to them, they know that we don't just cater to one fandom, but that we embrace fans of every team. And that's actually something we're going to have coming up soon. We're going to start recording next month. Um, we have connected with fans of basically every single Major League Baseball team. So something that was important to us as we've been connecting with so many people who have loved our content. We want to be able to collaborate and feature as many of their voices as possible. So something that we kind of cooked up was we want to go division by division, and we chose one kind of like fan representative from each team.
I think choosing is not quite right. A lot of them asked to do it.
A lot of them
Yeah.
did approach us and ask how they could collaborate with us. So we cooked up this idea that we would do a divisional roundtable. So you
Okay.
would sit down, and each of the three of us are going to moderate a couple of these. But so it's going to have a moderator who's one of the hosts, and then there's going to be five fan representatives, one from each team in each division. And then we're going to kind of go around and talk about what we're hopeful for 2026, what moves we would like to see the team make even before opening day.
What makes being a fan of that team and living and being a fan in that region so
exciting.
special.
Yep.
hmm
So we just kind of want to be able to feature as many perspectives and as many different ways that people approach their fandom as possible. So we have a lot of like personal people who have reached out to us through their personal accounts. We have some larger content creators that are going to be a part of this. So we're really excited to bring together as many people as possible, just so that we can all kind of celebrate our fandom together. And that's genuinely what I I think the main mission of the podcast was, whether we realized it or not.
Yeah.
Um, have you given thought to how are you going to deal with having the Uber Yankees and Red Sox fan, Dodgers, Giants, Dodgers, Padre, choose any division, the
Yeah, like
like the
the
Uber
super rivals.
rivals. How are you gonna deal with that?
So in all of the pre-work that's being done for these roundtables, we put together, well, mostly Courtney. Courtney is behind just about everything this podcast does. Courtney put together some very clear expectations and boundaries for how we want these discussions to go and the kinds of directions we plan to take the roundtables. And I think it's very clear that it's clear from us that this is to have fun, this is to have a nice time, this is to talk about our love of the game. And while those intense rivalries are part of the sport, it doesn't have to be part of being a fan.
Yeah.
And I think everyone who's coming in has like a love of the game beyond just their team.
It's
Okay.
yeah, it's true. So I think what I've tried to make clear in how I've sort of posited this to all of our fan representatives is that come and talk to us about why you love your team. Don't come to us and talk about why you hate another team.
Yeah.
So I want to hear why you love your team and what makes your team special. So if you're a Yankees fan, don't come here and talk for an hour and a half about why you hate the Red Sox, because I will edit all of that out.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've got a really good group, and I'm really excited to hear everyone's different perspectives. And yeah, they know to keep it clean.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So on the topic of 'cause the original question was what is a Pookie?
Yes.
And I have heard a few uh episodes where one, two, or all three of you actually reference the Los Angeles Dodgers because they
Yes.
have just and here is the thing, like when I grew up an Astros fan. I lived in
Okay.
Colorado for a few years, so I was a Rockies fan. It has, I will admit, it has gotten extremely difficult to be a Rockies fan over the last 10 years.
A little
Um,
bit.
and but so a couple years ago, my sons their rec baseball team, we had just gone to see the Los Angeles Angels play,
Okay.
and we saw Shohei Ohtani literally 2 weeks before he got hurt. Then
Oh,
he was off to the
no.
Dodgers. So when we were choosing our team name for the next year, they didn't have the Angels, but they had the Dodgers, and that was also the first team I ever played on, like growing up in my small town,
Okay.
was the Dodgers because they're obviously a national or international name. And so we chose the Dodgers, and that year the the boys team ended up like winning their league that year, and we fought
Was
we
2014? Did I read about this in one of the things you sent me?
it was 2024. So yeah, that's
Oh, okay.
actually that's what I sent you. That's the story I sent you is kind
Got
of
you.
about. Um and so but that was because they did well, and then we were watching over the summer. They got to know more of the players. And then, the Dodgers won the 2024 World Series. I told the boys, hey, this is like, how cool is this? Your team at your rec league like won, and then the real team won. I'm like, that's not
Yeah,
going to happen. So we were them this past spring. And so being able to follow them, like that's kind of the team that I follow more closely now because
okay.
of like what we did a few years ago, and the boys just getting really into it. And it is really fun to see a team that isn't afraid to have a good time, like they're,
Absolutely. Mhm.
um, and so it's it's really, really like it's a cool concept. What like that's actually not what I thought of when I listened to it and you said what is a pookie? Well, I guess I thought like people who are just having a good time, people who like are, you really, really like things. So I guess that is actually
Yeah,
what you two described earlier. Um,
well, that's
but
okay.
it's a really fun and funny way to start off an episode. And it also, I think, one really cool thing about it is if you listen, and you could say if you're listening to an episode or a podcast called Glove Actually, um, you're probably not expecting it to be like a straightforward, the like baseball heavy statistical strategy
Yeah,
podcast. But if you are, then when one of the first things that you three talk about is who is your Pookie, like that totally takes away that idea that like, oh, okay, now I know what I'm listening to.
yeah,
Now I know what I'm in for. Another thing that y'all do is
yes.
you have a top five, and you come up with top five. You come up with different top fives each episode. So this is off. Neither Courtney nor Hallie kind of know got this question before, but on the topic of top fives, do you have a favorite top five you've done in an episode so far?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Well, I think the top five we had the most fun recording was on our mascot episode. We
Oh
actually did
Okay.
yeah,
two top fives that week. We did cutest mascots and sexiest mascots. I don't think we've laughed as much since doing that.
it's
And we
true.
do a lot of laughing. They're all very fun. But I
Okay.
think I think we had the most fun doing sexiest mascots. I think that was,
That was just inherently very silly.
yeah.
So
So it's not that serious. Most of the mascots are animals or like anthropomorphized baseballs. Like
Yeah.
not
yeah,
like anything especially sexual about any of them because like they're for the kids first
yeah.
and foremost.
I think the mascot episode was definitely one of my favorites. Um, the great thing about the top five in general, I think, is that it gives us, and this is a big reason why we incorporated it into the episode structure. It gives us a way to discuss the topic and incorporate our own kind of sensibilities and show off our personalities. So I tend to approach things like much more like facts and figures. And like a lot of times when it comes to me selecting favorite players, it comes down to, oh, how do I feel about their performance compared to, like what I see as they kind of move through the world. Hallie tends to skew sillier, and she a lot of times goes off of vibes, and she will admit that. And this kind of relates back into what I was saying before. The good thing about the top five, there's really no wrong answer. It opens the floor up for a larger conversation. So I think that especially when it came to the mascots, I think that was definitely, it was very opinion based. There was no wrong answer. And the results were absolutely hilarious. And I feel like that it was also the third episode that we had recorded together. And I feel like that's really where we kind of like busted it kind of open, and really started to kind of unpack how different our personalities were and how those personalities fit together to make the podcast work.
Yeah. Really cool. It's and I actually do have a top five later that
Okay.
YouTube, well, I yes, I did send it to you. So,
You did. Yeah.
um, then another thing that I want to talk about is toward the end of the episode, and I have to say, listening to the listening to the first couple of episodes, like I said, if you are a little unsure about what you're going to get with the podcast, um, the talking about who is your Pookie kind of sets you on that track.
Yep.
I think another thing that completely, like, after you've listened to one, you're like, okay, I know what this is about, is the recommended media section.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So where, I guess, explain the recommended media section and then
Yeah.
talk about where that idea came from. I know you said that's how Melissa ultimately ended up joining the podcast.
Yes. So we wanted to figure out ways where people could cross over their preferred media format, whether it be books, movies, TV shows, and where that crosses over with the baseball world and ultimately the sports world. So originally, Melissa, we approached her about just doing the recommended media segment because we knew that she had a big like bookstagram account, and that's where a lot of her knowledge base and her expertise was going to be able to come in, and we were going to be able to show her off a little bit. And we just thought that that was going to be a good thing to do for us collaboratively. But like I said before, ultimately she came on the first episode as a guest, and we figured out that the flow worked a lot better with all three of us. So we pitched it to her and asked her if she would want to come back and do it every week, and she said yes, luckily. So it just sort of worked out really well and fell into place. But the recommended media segment, we always try to pick something that's going to relate back to whatever the overall like theme or topic of the episode is. And the great thing about sports media, whether it's again books, TV, movies, there's so many different things that we're able to feature, and even things that you wouldn't necessarily think to feature. So we have an episode coming up where we talk a little bit about the Dodgers, but we also talk about Twilight
Okay.
because there's a huge baseball scene in Twilight. So for a lot of people, specifically people who are into books, that's a good way to kind of bring them into the sports
Hmm.
world. So it's a great way to kind of cross over those interests. And especially with sports romance novels having such a huge moment right now, we thought that it was a good way to
Uplift some other creators as well.
correct,
Yeah.
as well as appeal to a little bit of a wider demographic.
So so far, and I don't know if this is, correct me if this is going to change, but so far everything has been romance based, correct?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe.
So we've done books, TV, and movies. Everything is like kind of seeped in romance a little bit. But there's also got to be some kind of sport or some way that it like
Yeah.
works back into the episode.
So did it was the idea to kind of, I guess, was there a conscious idea to focus on romance because that's what
A
because
lot of
Melissa
it is
is able to do that and it's having a moment now, or did that just kind of come more organically?
a little bit of both. A lot of Melissa's book background and book consumption, and honestly, to be completely frank, mine and Courtney's is romance based. Uh, oh, and so many movies we love are it's a classic rom com. It's movies where there is a romantic subplot.
Mhm.
Um, and I think with a name like Love Actually, based off of one of the most iconic love themed movies of all time, it would be a disservice not to connect to romance somehow in our recommended media.
And not to loop back to my favorite baseball movie quote, but how can you not be romantic about baseball? Come on.
I think the only recommended media we've done where there isn't a like a very romantic focus was Draft Day.
Yes.
And even then he's in a romantic relationship. That's kind of complicated.
But we
Okay.
did pick that because that was the episode where we drafted our own fantasy teams.
Okay. Okay.
So it kind of it fit in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
on oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and the way that the romance in that movie was portrayed was an important part of the analysis and discussion as well, even
Okay.
though it was such a small part of the film.
It's true.
And like I said, I just I commend the three of you because I that is not what you would hear on a typical baseball or sports podcast. It completely uh, flips the script, if you will, or it changes the trajectory. I think it is a really creative way to kind of get people in, and I really like Courtney what you said about and how you kind of backed it up as well, like getting more people into the sport realm, getting people from the sport realm to understand like this different, different fandoms. Because one of the main things we talk about in my class is basically if you are a fan of something, whatever it may be, if you're a fan of Disney, Universal, sport, music, Taylor Swift, if you are
Taylor
movies,
Swift, she's
anything,
right
yeah,
there.
we I did an episode about Taylor Swift and the Eras tour came out. And then I saw that on your wall. So
Have me back. I'll do a whole thing about Taylor Swift. Don't test me.
the but you know what, like kind of the main point of the class is if you are a fan of something and it doesn't hurt you. So literally, if you are, and the literal definition, one of the definitions of that would be if you're in a cult, like if you can't
Yeah,
get out of your own volition, that's not good.
of
If it doesn't
course.
hurt you and it doesn't knowingly hurt other people, you're not trying to hurt someone else, then you should be able to celebrate that because ultimately it makes you a happier person. It makes you
Yep.
have better relationships, better interactions with people, so on and so forth. From a 30,000 foot view, it makes you a more kind of useful
A more
member of
interesting
society,
person.
if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so one of the episodes I listened to, the first probably four or five I listened to, they were all books. That
Yes.
but then uh you three talked about Fever Pitch. And you
Oh
talked
yeah.
about the movie Fever Pitch. And that is one of my favorite movies. And I but there's a couple trivia points, which you three probably already know. But when I was listening to it, um, I wanted to message the account and say like, "Hey, did you know this about this movie? Did you know that's a remake? Did you know Fever Pitch is a
Yeah.
remake?" Okay,
Yeah, it was originally a rom com that was set in England, and it starred Colin Firth, and he
yeah.
was a super fan of the soccer team or
And
a football team.
did you know that they had to change the ending of that movie when they were filming it?
Yes, because of how the Red Sox ended up
Yeah.
making into the World Series.
Yeah, and so in the original one, like it's kind of woe is me, you get excited and then the team loses and at
And
the
then the
end like
letdown, yeah.
so in the Colin Firth one. And so my understanding was basically the end of the movie, the end of the American or the baseball version was going to be when she runs across the field.
Yeah.
That was the end because that's how the football version ended.
Yep.
Um, and then yes, because that
And then
was
they won
just
the World Series.
a crazy year when they were filming that they just then after the fact they had to like go and film scenes they like had to I want to say it might have even been during like reshoots that they just had a limited crew and they like called up Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon and said, "Hey, let's go to St. Louis real quick and get a couple." I think there's like maybe 5 or 6 second shots of them at Busch Stadium, and it's just that's one of the really cool things about that movie that
Yeah.
those facts actually make it more interesting to me. That understanding kind of what happened during all of that or behind the scenes with all of that. Um, so while we're on the topic, we'll jump around a little bit.
Sure.
Um, we will do our top five right now. And
Okay.
so if you are ready, the top five was in your opinion, and so in class, I always will have debates and we'll have like bracket style discussions and votes about best or favorite, whatever. It could be like MCU character, Marvel, Pixar, whatever. Um,
And this is something we talk about a lot too.
Yeah.
Because I frequently will say just because something's the best, that doesn't mean it has to be my favorite.
And
exactly.
just because
So
it's my favorite doesn't mean it's the best.
Mm-hmm.
so you already understand the assignment. So basically it is it if you say it's if you want to choose your best or what you think is the best for whatever reason, or you just want to have your favorite, that's perfectly fine. But it was your top five favorite or best baseball movies. And so in honor of the way that you three do it, um, we'll go around Courtney and then Hallie.
Five, five,
Um,
five, 4, 4, 4.
yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. I love it. Oh my God, can I start? I never get to start.
Yes, yes, you go ahead start. So let's go let's go from five down to one.
Okay, cool. My number five is Fever Pitch from
Okay.
2004, starring Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore. I adore this movie. I this is like I think my most rewatched baseball movie. I think the soundtrack is fantastic. I love the chemistry between Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon. And I think that it really kind of follows the trajectory of the Boston Red Sox season really, really nicely. And I think the fact that they ended up winning the World Series only made the movie better because I think that yes, it's probably a strong, happy ending if his team loses, but he still gets the girl and he still gets to have that love. But I think having he gets the girl and then his team wins it all, I just think that's so great. I love it. I love it. And it's one of the more quoted movies in my household. So Fever Pitch is going to be my number five.
Okay. All right, Hallie.
My number five is Benchwarmers, the
Okay.
John Heater
Okay.
movie.
Good one.
I love that it's a little raunchy. I love that it's very silly. I love that the stakes are kind of low but feel really high. I think it's such a delight to watch, and I like that it leans into the silliness of baseball because I do think
Okay.
it's an inherently silly sport.
It's true.
Okay. Mine would be A League of Their Own. It
Okay.
would have if I listed out six, six would be Fever Pitch, but A League of Their or actually I don't know. There's like 10.
I know.
But A
There
League of
are
Their
lots of
Own
there's so many good ones.
to choose from. Yeah.
when that came out, it was just so it was so different and so cool to see that come out. And then it's one of those things that I think of. a lot, and we talk about in class because I think the Walt Disney Company intentionally tries to do this. They talk about edutainment, and where you
Yes.
kind of introduce somebody through a movie or through something, through some content, and then they can learn more about it. And that's what A League of Their Own was. Like I had no idea that existed.
Yep.
And growing up in Houston, I don't know if you two remember a player. He's now deceased, but his name was Ken Caminiti. Kim
Yeah.
Caminiti. And his mother was actually in that league. I can't remember what team she played for. So growing up in Houston or around Houston, that was actually a topic as well. Like when that movie came out, it was like, hey, do you know one of the Astros players' mothers actually played in this league? And so it just kind of it was one of those things that added to the excitement of the movie. So all right, number four. Courtney, go ahead.
Number four for me is Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill from 2011. Features one of my favorite baseball movie quotes: "How can you not be romantic about baseball?" It also has shaped and aligns with my own personal philosophy about the value of players not necessarily coming from their big hits or who the youngest, hottest, faster is. It more has to do with who adds value to the team overall.
Hmm.
And something that I really pay attention to when I'm looking at players and how I view them, I look at their on base percentage. Is this a player who has good plate discipline? So their walk rate is up, so they get on first base more. Because the more you get on first base, the more likely you are to score a run.
Hmm.
If you are just hitting fly balls out to center, you're not making it to first base. Yes, you can make contact, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and that's something that really drew me to my favorite player, Ryan O'Hearn. He has fantastic plate discipline, and his on base percentage is great. So that's something I really pay attention to a lot and something I look for. And I attribute that to Moneyball. So
Okay.
thanks, Brad Pitt. Thanks, Billy Bean.
Hallie, go ahead.
Um, my number four is The Sandlot.
Okay.
They're classics in my household. We had a VHS of one of them and DVDs of the other ones. They were always on. It's one of my sister's favorite movies, so we spent a lot of time with The Sandlot.
Okay. So my number four is also Moneyball.
Okay.
And if you want to learn more about the way Moneyball has shaped the way I view baseball, that story that I sent you, I actually at the end of that kind of talk about uh, it was just sort of like something I wanted to say. So I talk about kind of, I guess, my philosophy of of baseball, and that does have a lot to do with that. Is I definitely agree, Courtney, that it is about kind of how much a person's able to help their team, and
Yep.
especially it's especially important at the youth level where players don't understand that. You know, you'll have a kid hit the ball and there's a kid from third base score, but that kid starts crying because they've been thrown out at first base.
Right.
And then, you know, they're upset that they've been thrown out, but even after they understand that, they're upset because they're like, well, I didn't help the team. It's like, no, you did help the
You
team.
got an RBI. What are
Like
you talking about?
you helped the team in like basic you getting a base hit with no one on base. Okay, maybe you get
Oh,
around to score, but you getting out when somebody else is able to come in, that really helped the team. And so I think that movie is really good in those ways. I will say it's not. I mean, it's not as accurate as a lot of people believed it was when it came out.
yeah,
Um, but however, there you're going to take some creative liberties
of
with things
course.
like that. And now a message from Cody's Inner Dialogue. Hey, Cody. Yeah, what's going on, Inner Dialogue? So, now that the prospectus files is out, I thought we would talk about it a little bit. Oh, actually, that's a really, really good idea, Inner Dialogue. Thank you. So yeah, the prospectus files is available on Amazon in paperback, hardback, Kindle, and Audible versions for people who want to listen to the book. Yeah, that's really cool. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the book? This being a Disney podcast, there are a lot of people who are fans of Disney, right? I hope so. Yeah. So if you are a fan of Disney, there are a lot of interactions that the characters in the book have with Disney. For example, they visit Disney Springs, they visit 1962 Disneyland, and they actually visit the 1964 New York World's Fair, which was a very influential World's Fair for Disney. They also interact with the original Dreamfinder and get to meet Figment, an early version of Figment. And they actually see Walt Disney himself. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and so, it's really, really fun for Disney fans. Outside of Disney, there are a lot of references to 80s and 90s movies, Back to the Future. There are some more contemporary or current examples as well. They get to interact with people like Steve Jobs, and they get to interact with Amelia Earhart. Oh, that's really fun. You know what? We're running short on time, Cody. Okay, thanks. Why don't you wrap this up? Where is the Prospectus Files available? Oh, okay. Well, again, the Prospectus Files is available on Amazon in paperback, hardback, Kindle, and Audible versions. So please, go get one today. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. And now back to our show. Number 3.
Number 3 for me is A League of Their Own.
Okay.
From 1992, starring Gina Davis and Tom Hanks. There's no crying in baseball. I love that it gave us the edutainment factor and taught us a little bit about women's baseball. I also think that it had a fairly accurate portrayal of the bonds of sisterhood and shared family that the ladies probably experienced on the road. And exploring again, creative liberties, exploring the relationship between the sisters when they get separated. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite parts of the movie is after they do the tryouts and they post everybody's names on the board. I might cry talking about this. I'm not joking. And there's the one woman standing there in the overalls. You can tell she's from like a more rural neighborhood, and she is looking for her name on the list. And she goes, another woman goes up to her. Somebody from the tryouts is like, if you don't see your name, I'm sorry, you got to go. And the other woman walks up to her and she's like, "What's your name?" Because she can't read.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a huge testament to, the struggles that women have gone through, the lengths that equality has come to even nowadays. And when she finally, she finds her name on the list, and then she gets to go sit with all of her new teammates and all of her new friends, and they automatically establish that bond and that sisterhood. So that's something that really made a huge impact on me. Stacked cast, amazing. And yeah, I think that it has definitely left an indelible mark on baseball movie history.
Yeah. And that movie actually changed a lot of the way that future baseball movies were cast and were filmed.
Yes.
Whereas some of the early, I think I shared the title of a book. I think it's called Baseball the Movie, where they talk about
Yes.
this. It's a guy who talks about how baseball movies were made and how they, what they meant, kind of in society at the time they were made. But so a lot of the early movies, they were looking at who was the big star of the day, and if they could play baseball, great. If they couldn't, it didn't really matter because you could do close-ups and everything. And some of the things that they did was like they even would have. I can't remember what movie it was, but in one instance, the movie star, the star of the movie, was not baseball like inclined at all, to the point where they actually filmed it backwards, where he would run to third base instead of first base, like things like that. But with League of Their Own, they actually held tryouts.
Yep.
They had, I think it was the USC baseball coach like held kind of a training camp.
Yeah,
And
they all went through like I think 6 weeks of baseball camp, and I
yeah,
think Rosie O'Donnell hated it.
and there are, there are, and then like there are so many people, there's so many women wanted to do that because it was also kind of this testament of like, all right, well, look, a lot of the early movies that had men in them, they didn't have to have baseball knowledge or baseball skill, but look at what like, we have to go the extra mile to show that
Of
we can
course.
actually do this. And that did carry over to future movies where they will, they are more cognizant of that, making sure that, people are trained to do different things and stuff like that. So, but Hallie, you're number three.
My number three is the movie version of Damn Yankees, the musical. I love musicals. I love Damn Yankees. I got to see a production of it when I was in middle school, and we say this a lot on the podcast. It really just altered my brain chemistry as a child,
Yeah.
and from there, like it was especially engaging for me as a kid because my grandpa was a really big Yankees fan,
Okay.
and of course, being a good God-fearing Midwestern girl, no. Loyal to the Twins till I die. So getting to see a movie about the curse of the Bambino, yeah, and watch people sing and dance to Golden Age Hollywood or Golden Age and Broadway tunes. It's such a treat.
Yeah. Real quick, I've only been to Minnesota. I've been to Minnesota once. I've been to
Okay.
Minneapolis once. Sorry.
Okay.
Um,
Good place to
and
visit.
we went to Mall of the Americas,
Yeah, of
and I
course.
went to the Nickelodeon World. And I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
know this was really cool. I was walking around Nickelodeon World, and all of a sudden I look down and I see like, this is where home plate was to Metropolitan Stadium, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was just a really cool
It's really
thing.
impressive.
I had no idea that's where it was. And so that's just kind of a cool thing that I was able to see on that trip. My third would be Sandlot, because I think
Yeah.
it does a really good job of explaining why people like or love playing as much as they do.
Yep.
Um, if it ultimately is, and I watch my kids play when, like, if an adult isn't involved, kids just come up with their own rules and they
Yeah.
come up with
Exactly.
their own, like, it's like
House rules.
yeah, they like they can manage themselves for a certain amount of time. But like, I think that's really, really cool to see that and to kind of like get this idea of, and when we were messaging Courtney, you said, it's as much a story about childhood than it is about baseball. And the Fourth of July scene, is, if I ever post anything on Fourth of July, I try to remember to post that every year,
Oh,
because that
that
is
cover
one of
of
the
America the
coolest.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that is.
So good.
So number two, go ahead, Courtney.
Number two for me is going to be 42 from
Okay.
2013, starring Chadwick Boseman as Jackie Robinson, also starring Harrison Ford. This was, I think, a very important baseball movie. And it's all about the integration of baseball, and it's all about, how Jackie Robinson rose to fame and got to be one of the goats of baseball. And I think it's also very interesting to show how how it was received by the general public, but also I think the inclusion of and the focus on Harrison Ford's character was critical,
Hmm.
just to make sure that there was a balance between how many people were against it versus how many people were for it. And how Harrison Ford basically sat everybody down and was like, you are going to treat him with respect. And if you're not, then you're off my team. So that's something that really that was a big takeaway for me. And I think that, again, it's one of the most important baseball movies. when I put together this list, I what makes a baseball movie one of my favorites is if it makes me look at the game differently, and um if it makes me understand
Hmm.
why the movie needed to be made.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
So that's a big one for me.
Go ahead, Hallie. You're number
My
two.
number two, I almost said number three. My number two is a movie we've discussed already on both of your lists. It's A League of Their Own.
Okay.
I one thing I really like when I'm watching movies or seeing any kind of media is if I can tell the people there had a good time doing it. And I know Rosie O'Donnell was miserable, but like you
Yeah.
can tell she still enjoyed being there. She still like, and everybody put a lot of heart into that movie. And I think that's something that really comes through. And I do think it's a really important baseball story that needed to be told. So it's my number two favorite.
Yeah, one thing I think it did really well is that we've sort of touched on, but also it showed Tom Hanks' character, how he
Mhm.
kind of evolves through the movie.
Yeah.
I think it was a lesson for people who had doubt whether a
Yep.
league like that would work or should exist. I think it helped to see his character kind of evolve the way he did to, at the beginning he's so angry to be involved in this, but this is the only opportunity he has to play baseball,
Yeah.
or I'm sorry, to be involved with baseball. To at the end where, he's heavily invested and that
Oh,
is a critical part of his identity. I think that was a very important part of that movie as well. My number two is actually Major League.
okay.
And I actually looking at my list, like whenever you two say something, I kind of get a little jealous. I'm like, I should have put that one. Um, but but looking at my list, like my number one and number two, looking back, I'm not sure I should have watched those at the age I watched them, but I did. So,
Okay.
but Major League is just it's an all around fun movie
Yeah.
that and it kind of it's sort of like Major League is over on this end of the spectrum as far as like appropriateness versus like Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah.
I should say the Disney version of Angels in the Outfield. Um, but it's just really fun, and it's cool to see uh like I can't remember the guy's name now who does I think he does the nationwide commercials. Like it's really
Oh,
fun when
J.K.
those come
Simmons.
on that you're like, oh,
No,
what's his name?
no, that's J.K. Simmons. He does farmers.
Yeah.
I
I
think it
know.
was Nationwide.
I can't remember, but it was.
Oh, that's gonna bug me.
But whenever those commercials come on and like you hear his deep gravelly voice, it's like, oh, that I remember Major League. It makes me think of Major League
Oh,
all the time.
oh,
Is that nationwide?
oh my God. It's Dennis Haysbert.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then number one.
Number one for me, hands down, is The Sandlot.
Okay.
Um, for a lot of the reasons that we've spoken about previously in the DMs. I think it does an absolutely incredible job of highlighting the nostalgia of what summer felt like as a kid. The 4th of July scene, absolutely. I had one of my first movie crushes ever. Um, which I mean, if you had to guess who my movie crush was from that movie, who would you think it was?
Well, this isn't you specifically. I'm trying to think like a movie crush for someone watching that movie. I think kind of you would, and the reason that you pose the question like that, so it's not going to be the number one or number two. I would think the number one that most people would think would be like the uh I can't remember his name. The one who ends up playing for the Dodgers. I can't remember his name.
Kenny the Jet
Um
Rodriguez.
yeah, number two would probably be the new kid. Um it is it like Smalls or the the catcher?
Smalls is the new kid.
Smalls is the new
Um,
kid.
yeah, the
Squints.
catcher is
Squints or the catcher? Is it
it's Squints,
okay?
which Hallie will tell you, IRL, that shaped my type.
Okay.
So yeah, Chauncey Lepardi, he did a TikTok with Patrick Renna who played Ham
Hmm.
Porter, and it was the the four non blonde song "What's Up," and
Okay.
it was like with "Bees in the Trap" by
Oh yeah.
Nicki Minaj, and they did like the back to back thing,
Yeah.
and he it started with Ham Porter, and when it spun around, it was Squints, and we reposted that on the Glove Actually account because I love Chauncey Lepardi, and he sent us a DM, and he was like, "Thanks for sharing," and I just about died.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I am hardcore trying to get him to come on the podcast. So if anybody out there knows Chauncey LaPark, tell him I need him on the podcast. But yeah, it's just got that's an instant replay for me. And I loved the sequels. I loved that eventually they did bring back Squints in I think the third one.
Yes.
And then yeah, I love that the second one there was like a little love story. I just think they do such a good job of capturing what it feels like to be a kid.
Okay.
So and also they put a lot of baseball in there. They teach a very rudimentary understanding of the game. They teach you about probably the first baseball player most people will hear of or learn about, which is Babe Ruth. And then of course you got James Earl Jones. Oh, so
Yeah.
good.
The and another really cool thing about that is like the way that they teach it is extremely important for kids to learn.
Yeah.
For kids to learn how to play, that's a great movie for them to watch. The same as like if a kid is trying to learn how to play baseball, there's actually like a mobile game that people can play like on their iPads and everything called Baseball 9 that
Okay.
it's just a really good I play it all the time. Like I've played it for probably 4 years now or more. That it's a really good way of like when the ball's hit somewhere, like that player will get it and then they'll throw to first and it'll be like, a second delay. So then whoever's playing can actually speed it up by pressing like to tell them where to throw. But like it's a really good way to for kids to see how to like learn how to play the game. I think that movie does a lot of that as well because it does explain about the game and then it explains the lore of the game, some of the lore of the game as well, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
So you're number one, Hallie.
My number one is Twilight.
Oh
I
my
think
Okay.
it,
I knew her number one was Twilight and I forgot. And I'm sitting here like, what's her number one gonna be? And then oh my
it's
god.
Twilight. One of I think the most important scene in the entire movie is because they were playing baseball.
Yeah.
That to me makes it a baseball movie, even though the baseball is what like 0.5% of the screen time,
It's true.
something
But
like.
yeah,
But
that scene is like the catalyst for the climax of the
exactly
movie.
all of the action, every like important event that happens in the entire series is because of that baseball.
That baseball game, yeah.
Okay.
And the impact that baseball had on a young girl's life. Oh, I don't think there's another movie that does it.
So I have to admit I've never seen any of those movies. Um
Well, now that you know it's a baseball movie,
You gotta watch it.
yeah.
At least
Um
watch the first one.
The first one's, I
okay.
think, a cinematic masterpiece. The other ones,
It's a lot of world building.
it's a lot of world building. There's not as much baseball in them, unfortunately.
There's zero baseball.
There's zero baseball in any of the others.
The what
But they're wonderful.
I'm trying to remember when they came out, and they were based on books,
About
right?
like 2010
The
to
first
20,
one, the first one was 2008.
2008. Was it based on a book,
Yes.
or did they?
They're all
Okay,
based on books.
Okay. I couldn't remember if they made those based off the books or they kind of went back and wrote books sort of like,
Oh no,
based on the
I think
screenplays.
nearly all the books, all but I think the last book were published when the first movie came out.
Okay. So
I think,
yes,
if I remember correctly.
I'll try to find where that is streaming. Now it's so difficult to find like where movies are, but
They're on Pluto TV.
oh, okay. All right. Well, perfect.
We just watched them a couple weekends ago. Um, because like I said, we recorded a Dodgers and Twilight episode. So Pluto TV.
Very perfect. Thank you. So my number one, which I think on the topic of in your recommended media, a lot of it has to do with romance. I think the biggest romance or love story, baseball story to me is Bull Durham for so many
When
reasons.
you said that,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I know what his number one is going to be.
I mean, obviously there is a love story in there. And I listened to a book that the director wrote about making that movie. And it's a really cool book. Like he gets into uh, kind of so much deeper than I even thought of ever in the movie, but like the relationship between the three characters and everything. But more than that, like, one of my favorite lines from Moneyball also is, "How can you not be romantic about baseball?" Bull Durham is that to me as well,
Yeah.
because like I said, I never played at a high level. I played in high school and then I played it as an adult, but I never played for like I went to the University of Texas. There was no way I was playing there. I played, I never played college. I never played professional or anything like that. I did get to go one time to a professional tryout because it was just it was a money
Cool.
making thing. Like basically you paid $70 and you went to a tryout. But for me, I got to catch in the bullpen, I got to hit in the batting cage, and I spent like 5 or 6 hours at the Round Rock Express baseball stadium. It was like it was basically like one of these fantasy spring camps. I think there was probably one or two people that they actually even called back from these things that are like the 150 or whatever that would show up. But like it was really cool to be able to do that. And so like, but not having played at a high level, Bull Durham, in my experience, is the most like realistic baseball movie. Um, because a lot of those conversations, while we didn't have, a lot of the more sordid conversations that they had in the movie,
Mhm.
but when you would go out for mound visits and you would be talking to teammates and during games, like you were not talking about baseball a lot of the time.
Talking about
Your
everything
coach would
else.
come out and remind you to like, you know,
Lock in.
hey, yeah, like you've got a baseball game going on. Like you shouldn't
Yeah.
be talking about other stuff all the time. Um, and it's really cool the way that the movie ends, that it just ends. There's no, it's not like A League of Their Own where there's like the kind of climactic scene, but then there's a decision that, like she just decides to drop the ball rather than hold on the ball. It's not like a Major League where they win at the end, or a lot of these like kind of hero movies where they win. It just ends. And that's the way a lot of like baseball players' careers, that's how they end. Like you just one day realize that you've played your last game 2 or 3 weeks or months or whatever ago, and that I think that's really cool. So I absolutely love that movie. Um, Admittedly, I probably should not have been watching that movie at the age I was. However, I did about 10 years ago. I went to a conference in Chapel Hill, and I made the drive
Okay.
over to Durham and got to go to this
Yeah.
is the new Durham baseball stadium.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they weren't playing at the original one when I
I
was there, but
my sister lives in North Carolina. My whole family lives in North Carolina now, actually. But my sister, when she initially moved down to North Carolina, she was in the Raleigh area,
okay.
and I went to visit her. And one of the things we did was we drove into Durham, and we went to Chapel Hill to go to a Bulls game. So
Yeah.
that was really neat.
And what's so interesting about that is the Bulls have always been a pretty good team. They've
Oh
never
yeah.
been a horrible team like it's portrayed in the movie. They just kind of used it, just made for a good title. So they used
Yeah.
that. It wasn't really like how the actual team ever was. So
Gotcha.
thank you for the top five. Getting back
Of
to
course. Yeah, that's always real fun.
the there's two more questions that I have before the rapid questions that we'll wrap up.
Okay.
So what do you think? What is the importance of having an all-woman produced, hosted baseball podcast? In your words, what is important about that in kind of the entertainment space and the baseball space?
Yeah, I think it comes down to it's all about representation. Every fan wants to see themselves represented in some facet of the game, and there are not a lot of female content creators covering sports. A lot of the women who are in sports right now are journalists, and we had one, I think one female announcer who the A's did not renew her contract for next year.
Oh, really?
So I think that it's important to step in and kind of take up that space. And as we've spoken about previously, I think we have a unique voice in terms of balancing the silly with the serious and the fun with the factual to help engage fans of all different levels who might not be as deep in the weeds with all the details and all the stats. So a lot of sports podcasts and sports fans in general can tend to be a little intimidating to just strike up a conversation with. A lot of them tend to focus on how much you know, and then let me demonstrate how I can show you how much more I know than you.
Hmm.
So it's important to us that fans of every sort of fandom level and every facet of fandom is welcome. And there's no wrong way to be a fan. As you mentioned before, if it's not hurting yourself and it's not hurting anyone else, there's no wrong way to be a fan. So we want to inspire, promote, and support all facets of fandom. So I feel like, generally speaking, it's important for us to take up space as women covering sports, but for also us to welcome everyone, as many people as possible, to a sport that really shouldn't have any reason not to love them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
Hallie.
Yeah, I think one of the most satisfying things about doing this podcast is lowering that barrier for entry to fandom. Um, I think, like Courtney was saying, a lot of fan spaces can be very intimidating if you're just starting out somewhere, or if you're new there. And I think finding a way to present sports content in a friendlier, more casual setting.
It automatically kind of makes it
Yeah,
more palatable.
exactly. And I think there is a hole in the market that needs to be filled there. And like what an exciting space to be in.
Women in male dominated fields.
Exactly. Women purchase a podcast mic, take over the airwaves.
And
Fred,
I
your
will,
medium warm opinion.
Yes,
there's absolutely no better way I could say that. So I will leave that at that. Thank you both for that.
of
The
course.
amazing answers. Also, just thank you for the podcast. It's a lot of fun.
Thank
On
you. That means so much to us. We genuinely, I didn't know how well it was going to be received, but to see how well it has been received by the people we've been able to reach has been very touching. So thank you so much.
oh no, thank you. The so behind the scenes,
Yes.
and since you just brought up people that you've been able to reach, um, a lot of people think they want to be a content creator. We have a lot of students who that's what they would like to do as well. And I think it's good to give people kind of a behind the scenes look of how difficult this really is, how much
Yes.
time it takes. So, um, what has been your experiences producing, hosting, promoting the podcast? From like how long does it take to do the research, to do the recording, the editing? You know, most of your episodes are about 30 minutes. Are they a lot longer and you edit them down? Like, what's the process you go through?
So again, important to note before I get into all of this that I have a full-time job. It keeps me busy 40 to 50 hours a week. So that's my 9 to 5. And the podcast, I say, is my 5 to 9. Conceptualizing, brainstorming, it's a very fluid process. We have a group chat. So a lot of times if we have an idea that kind of strikes us in the middle of the day, we'll just kind of float it out into the group chat just to see what everybody else thinks. And then we tend to record once a week. And then every couple of weeks, we do a brainstorm for a few hours, just to make sure that we've got plenty of ideas kind of in the chamber, ready to go. And those are like fully formed topics that, okay, this is the topic. This is who we're going to have on as a guest. We've reached out to them. They're
Confirmed.
they're confirmed, and this is what we're going to talk about media wise. Here's what our top 5 is going to be. So that also gives us a chance during the brainstorm to make sure our recording schedule, everybody's aligned with that if there's any changes and fluctuations in availability, we're able to correct for that. So every week, I would say that's about 5 to 6 hours. And then that also individually, aside from that, we all do our own legwork and research into who's going to be our cookie of the week, who do we hope has fun this week, and then the top 5. So we usually plan anywhere from like 2 to 5 episodes in advance. We have our divisional roundtable series set, so we have all of our other episodes that are going to go in kind of around that set. So our content is pretty much set until opening day, which is great.
Okay.
But that kind of takes the conceptualizing and brainstorming sort of off of our shoulders for a little bit. Recording itself, it requires, alignment of schedules, and the more people you have, the longer it can take. The more complicated it can get when there's more moving parts. But the recording itself usually takes about 2 hours, anywhere between 1 to 2 hours, depending what the topic is, how off track we get, because we tend to yap a lot, and then we'll get on a tangent, and then we'll have to shift back. So I would say roughly recording takes 2 hours per episode. I personally am the person who edits all the podcasts down from our raw recordings. So our episodes end up somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. While I'm editing the episode and trimming everything out, I will also clip the episode for the preview video.
Okay.
Those are kind of things that I do all at once. Depending on how like locked in I am and how much off topic yapping I have to kind of like sift through, it can take anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. And sometimes that's spread over a couple of days, because I can't really spend 6 hours straight staring at my laptop after I've spent 10 hours staring at my laptop during the workday. So the preview itself usually takes around an hour to organize all the clips and format it all to 30 seconds. Sometimes I I play with the speed to make sure everything fits within that 30-second window. I also create all of the graphics, including our like Spotify graphics, our Instagram episode slides, the recap slides, no context, and usually updating all of those. Again, that's kind of a fluid process, and I tend to do it around, I'll take a break from editing, and then I'll do the graphics, and then I'll go back to editing. I'll edit the no context. I'll go back. And as I'm editing, it also gives me an opportunity to kind of stick in stuff for no context. So depending on how locked in I am, it takes probably around an hour or so total to do all the graphics. Uploading everything and scheduling it to post is usually pretty straightforward. I keep the same, I type out all of our posts and I have them in like a note on my phone so
Okay.
that when I go into Instagram, because I post everything from my phone, I can just copy and paste. And then I have like bits that I edit per episode. Same with Spotify. We usually just grab the same format and then we just put it in for each episode and edit just the little bits just to make sure that that's relatively straightforward and saves us a little bit of time. It also helps promote consistency, which I find really important. Scheduling everything from the all the posts, the Spotify launches. We post every day, Monday through Friday. We have something posting. Usually takes 30 to 60 minutes. So I'd say another hour for that. And then, like I said, we promote every day, Monday through Friday. We have something new to post. We'll promote it on our own personal accounts and all the other accounts that we kind of have control over. Um, we're also going into the Instagram every day, making sure DMs are answered, making sure that we're interacting with our followers. I have our Threads account. So I'm the person that's going in and interacting with everybody on Threads.
And that's a huge time commitment.
Threads
That's
is
where she's
yeah.
the most popular.
Threads is somehow where I am the most popular. I don't know how it happened. I just kind of put it out into the ether on my personal account one day, and I got, I am not exaggerating, hundreds of
Cool.
comments and likes on this saying, "Oh, I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm a Cardinals fan. I'm a Detroit Tigers fan." Like, and that's where we've seen the most engagement. We literally watched our follower count double overnight. And so I'm doing a lot of networking and interacting there. And we share all of our content there as well. Altogether, promoting it probably takes up about 2 to 3 hours a week. And the most of that is just interacting with people, answering DMs. And I mean, sharing the posts doesn't take a long time, but sharing them to multiple accounts can
Yeah.
sometimes take a lot of time. Um, so yeah, that's all together. This is probably an extra like 10 to 15 hours a week that I'm spending solely on doing the podcast. And I never feel like it's enough. Um, I always know that I could be doing more with our graphics, with how we're interacting with people, trying to network. So there's a huge margin of opportunity for us still. Ultimately, would I love to quit my job and just do the podcast full time? I'd love to. That's just not a reality at the moment. Um, the the trajectory of the podcast has been on the up and up basically since we started, which has been great. Um, but it's about breaking into those bigger content markets
Yeah.
and securing your demographic and getting that reach, especially in today's kind of internet culture, is very difficult. And you never know what's going to kind of take off and really connect with people and go viral. And it's sometimes the most random things.
Yeah.
So in viral internet culture, it can be very difficult to kind of find something to latch on to be able to take you up to the very top.
Yeah. Thank you. Have you, because have you reached the point or um, how do you deal with the times that you're just tired or not having a good day or have the days that people have where it's like I just don't want to do this like I you know but it's important to keep reaching out or it's important to keep engaging with people, keep putting out content. Um, how do you deal with those days? And have you kind of how do you balance this? Hey, this is something I really, really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
It's also becoming a a second job, and it's becoming
Yeah.
a really, really difficult thing to keep up, as you said.
So, like everyone, I have bad days. What I will say about doing the podcast the podcast and baseball in general has been my escape from my bad days. So I've gone through a lot of shit in the last couple of years, and baseball is something that I really love because baseball is consistent. There's 162 games a year, no matter what. Your team is going to come out and play, no matter whether they're having a good day or not. So leaning into something that is so enjoyable for me to do, like I really love recording with Hallie and Melissa. It is, they bring me so much joy when we are recording together. It's so nice when we're just brainstorming and throwing ideas around. So it's easy for me to say, okay, well, I had an absolutely terrible day at work. Let me just do something to kind of take my mind off of it. The thing that's going to take my mind off of it is editing the podcast.
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy.
I think one thing that's also important that I don't know if it's exactly your mindset, but that success can look different for different people. And for me, the success of the podcast isn't the amount of listeners we have or the number of followers we get. It's spending time with my friends and doing something fun together. That feels like success to me. And getting to help my friend do something that she's so passionate about and that she loves, and doing my part to make it easy for her to enjoy her time, that feels like success for me.
Something I've considered a lot though is, like I said, I want to be able to quit my job and focus on the podcast full time. I know realistically, if I do that, there's going to be those days that I have where I'm not feeling my best. And that energy is going to be focused toward, okay, well, this is my primary focus. So this is what has kind of like got me spinning out of control.
Yeah.
I've come to that bridge. I can't say that I've crossed that bridge because I don't have the opportunity to cross that bridge yet. But I think that what makes the podcast so special right now is that it is my escape from my bad days. And it is something that I get to do, especially on my good days. With this being what people want to pursue, it's important to remember that you're going to get out of it as much as you put into it. So if you are willing to put in all of this self-starter work to build it up from nothing, then you're going to be able to glean more out of it than if you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll put in 10 hours a week and, I'll do one episode every couple of weeks and, oh, but I don't really feel like interacting on Threads much today. Let me just kind of bide my time until next week's episode hits, and then we'll kind of go from there. You're not going to get as much engagement. You're not going to get as much of a reaction. The more active you are to put your presence out there, the more you're going to get in return.
Yeah. Very true. All right. Thank you. So is there anything else before we get to our rapid questions that you think is important for people to know about producing a podcast? Anything that we missed about the podcast itself? Anything you think is important to share?
Yeah. So some things that I find are actual critical parts of the content creation process that not a lot of people know about. So I feel like the most critical thing when you're just starting out, pick something that you are genuinely passionate about and you have a lot of knowledge about, you have a lot of opinions about, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you 100% support all the way around. It can be something that you're critical of, because some of your topics of conversation and your opinions can be how would you change it to make it better. And I feel like that's where a lot of people find kinship in their fellow fans. So if you're able to do that, you're able to explore as many different facets as possible. And a lot of the exploration of those other facets is what's going to give you the majority of your content itself. So spit out as many ideas for content as you can. Take notes on your ideas. Organize your thoughts as much as possible. We have a very organized Google Doc where we put all of our notes for everything. We have like pages that are dedicated to our ideas and episode ideas that we want to do, and ways that we've kind of fleshed those ideas out. We have a big spreadsheet where we kind of explore a lot of the different teams throughout the league. We kind of made a spreadsheet of, okay, like, who's your favorite first baseman? Who's your favorite catcher? Who's your favorite third baseman? Etc. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped us a lot when we were creating our top fives, because we filled out this spreadsheet as best as we could. And then when we started doing our episodes, we would just yank right from there to do our top fives.
Okay.
So keeping your thoughts as organized as possible. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Explore different ways to kind of immerse yourself in the world that you talk about. So for Disney fans, it's going to the parks. If Disney fans have want to have a focus on content creation, obviously going into the parks and doing content from within the parks is a great way to kind of bring that different facet to their demographic. We're planning to broadcast and record at least one baseball game this year.
Okay.
Just to kind of give a little bit more variety to the usual outline and structure that we provide. I would say the number one piece of advice that I would give is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to look silly. Don't be afraid to sound silly. Content creation is not something that I feel like humans are naturally programmed to do. Producing it is structured in a way that it's not necessarily going to make sense at first. But once you get used to it, you're going to find ways to make it easier for yourself. You're going to find ways that it flows naturally for you. And I feel like that's how people really kind of put their own stamp on it. Don't be afraid to reach out to other creators to collaborate on projects. You might not get a response right away, or you might not get a yes, but you might get not right now. We've got a lot of other stuff going on.
You might get a recommendation of someone else who could be available or a better fit
Mm-hmm.
for what you have to offer.
Very true. Another thing that is important to us is keep your content consistent. Create a schedule that you can stick to. Keep your episode structure consistent, just so once people get to know you, get to know your podcast, they can sort of know what to expect as far as the general flow goes. Building your brand is a hugely important thing. And that also helps to understand what type of audience you want to reach. Another big thing is understanding that despite what you think you want your audience to be, your demographic and the people who consume your content may be a shift from what you originally thought and who you were originally playing to. But it's important that the people that are consuming your content and engaging with your content, that's your demographic. And you need to make sure that not only are you paying attention to it, but you are catering to those sensibilities
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that you're still able to grow. But building your brand, making sure, again, consistency, making sure your graphics and your logos match. Anything that represents your content is within that same visual family. So there is a lot of work that goes into it on the back end, but once you've kind of got things into an established rhythm, it is a little bit easier to kind of charge forward. And after a certain point, it just becomes about exploring new ideas. And once again, don't be afraid to explore those new ideas. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask your listeners what they want to hear about. I say it multiple times in every episode. I'm like, hey, if there's anything you guys want us to talk about, leave a comment. If there's anything you guys want us to, who's your Pookie of the week? Stuff like that. And it's a great way to also boost engagement and let the listeners know that their opinions and their what they have to contribute is also valuable to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very
Of course.
much. Um, so I did there's one more thing that I listening to your podcast, listening to the episodes, you two have gone to several Rays games.
Yes.
What has
Yeah.
quickly what's the experience been like that they're playing at Steinbrenner? They played at Steinbrenner Field this last year.
Yeah, we've
Hot.
hot. We've had experience seeing them play at Tropicana Field, which is an indoor stadium, and at Steinbrenner Field, which is the Yankees practice stadium.
Yes, it's like their
Um,
spring training
yes,
facility, and it's like the home to I think their lower A team.
one of their A
Yeah.
teams.
Okay.
So I always have fun at Rays games. I'm so excited that we're going to get to go back to the Trop next summer. Prior to the hurricane knocking out the entire building, there was a meet and greet with actual stingrays from the aquarium in town. So that was really fun to have animal ambassadors to represent the team.
Hmm.
It's a great way. It was a great way to like tie in local businesses as well, and kind of give another activity to do at the baseball game. Um, I always get excited for, and all stadiums, I believe, have these. I love mascot races. Anytime the mascots are
Hmm.
doing something, that gets me to
Pay
click back
attention.
into what's going on in the game. It also helps
Did
with the fixing of it all. Um, because it wasn't the Rays' own stadium, some of the fan offerings were a little bit more limited than in previous years. A lot of the Rays' personality wasn't as present at the home games as they were at the Trop. Um, uh, at the Trop, there was a beautiful food court of like local shops and vendors doing food there, and it was a little bit more basic this year. Um,
It's
but
still good.
the staff at Steinbrenner is always so welcoming and so lovely, um, and it really feels like a very safe stadium to go visit.
Yeah.
yeah.
They take fan safety very seriously there, which is really encouraging to experience as a
Did
fan.
do the Rays? Did I hear one of you say that the Rays have an axolotl mascot?
They do,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, she's actually
That's my son's favorite animal
really
now.
she's actually a mascot of the aquarium in Tampa. It's Aquarium
Oh,
of
okay.
the what is it? What is the aquarium's actual name?
I think it's the Tampa Aquarium.
I don't think it is. She actually belongs to the aquarium, but they
Okay.
do so many events together. So that was actually a mix up that I made. But Chochi, she was my first Pookie of the week.
Yep.
Yeah, she
It's the Florida Aquarium in Tampa.
Okay, there we
Oh,
go.
okay. Okay.
So she's actually part of just a partner there. She's a mascot ambassador for the aquarium.
Very
But
cool.
which again I think ties into my like the fun I get to have at work. I work with a lot of a lot of
A lot of silly, goofy characters.
lots of silly goofy characters that have a lot of traits in common with
Yeah.
mascots.
Yeah.
So it's just like being at home.
Yeah.
They're a
So
fun team for me to be a fan of. And their team colors are really pretty, and that's important to me as a fan. Um, and St. Petersburg, Florida is a really beautiful part of the state, so it's always a treat for us to get to go out there.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I kind of wondered with this year, you know, two teams playing at minor league stadiums, what the experiences were. And I have seen that yes, the at least the roof is ready on
Yeah.
Tropicana, which
I think
um
they've officially announced that the stadium should be ready in time for the season opener.
They have.
okay.
So I'm very excited to be back in there.
Yeah.
One thing that's really unique about going to Rays games is a lot of the fans that come to the games are fans of the visiting team.
Yeah.
It has and I think it's because so many people come to Florida.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of Rays fans. When we go to games, if we're going to multiple games, I go and Rays here at least one night, one of the however many games we make it to. But like for teams where I see a lot of their games, like the Twins or the Orioles, I'll also come festive for them.
Yeah.
Um, I think I think because it's also a smaller market team that plays medium well, uh, I think that allows them a little bit more fun flexibility,
Okay.
if that
It'll
makes sense.
be I know we're running short on time, but it will be interesting to see if and when Major League Baseball expands, if they make the decision to put a team in Orlando, it'll be interesting to see like two teams being that close. How
I think it's
those
going to be fine because Los Angeles has four teams.
Yeah.
So like a Tampa team and an Orlando team, I think we'll be fine. And then we also have the Marlins a little further down the road.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I think
Personally, I want to see a Nashville team.
I think a
See
Nashville
a
team
what?
would be,
A Nashville team
I
in
think a
Tennessee.
Nashville team would do better than an Orlando team.
So
I
so
My dream for professional baseball in Orlando is that we get a banana ball team.
okay.
That's my dream. I think that would be a better fit for Armor for the or at least for the Orlando market.
Well, and you know what's interesting? So I would like to see a Nashville team as well because we're that would then be the closest team for us. Um, what's interesting, you mentioned the banana ball. Um, one of the new teams that they introduced, the Cocoa Beach Locos, like I or
The
no,
local
Loco Beach
coconut.
Cocos. Um, like I mean, that is the East Coast team. Like if you look
Yeah.
at their schedule, they're playing primarily on the East Coast. However, it's not, I mean, Loco Beach is, as far as I know, a fictional place.
It is.
Um, it is not like the Indianapolis Clowns or the Texas Tailgaters that have
Of course.
a name attached to them. So it will be interesting to see. I also saw earlier today that there there's a team in Chicago, the Chicago Snowballs, that they're kind of starting their brand
Oh,
of sort of like a entertainment. It's not banana ball, it'll be like sort of entertainment. Because I saw
yeah,
like a
it's still like
post for
exhibition
open
ball.
tryouts. So
Okay. That's fun.
Yeah.
Ooh,
um
okay.
so maybe, maybe if you have other teams starting to do things, you actually maybe in the future, maybe banana ball or entertainment ball or whatever it would be called, like you would actually possibly have two leagues that sort of merged, kind of like Major League Baseball did originally. So,
Very cool.
um,
Yeah. I think more
so
baseball is better.
yeah, especially baseball that can people could see is
Yeah.
fun. It's been people have thought baseball was not fun for too long. I think it'll be good to see that it can be fun.
Yeah.
So I have five rapid questions.
Okay.
They are all baseball related.
Oh,
The
okay.
way these work, you can explain your answer if you want. You don't have to explain your answer if you don't want. You do whatever you want to do. So,
Okay.
Courtney, you went first on the top five.
So
Holly,
Allie
do
can
you
go
want to go
first.
first on these?
I
You
would
kind of
love to go there.
you're well, you're kind of put on the spot more. So that's I'm not sure it's a good thing or not, but so all right, the first one, favorite baseball park.
Favorite park?
Yeah. Favorite baseball
Oh, Target
stadium.
Field. Target Field.
Target Field?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I've been there. It is cool. I like that
Wonderful.
part that overhangs the wall.
Mm-hmm.
That part's really neat looking. How about you, Courtney?
Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Honorable mention though goes to Petco Park
And the Trop.
and the Trop.
We we went to Petco Park and it is a beautiful stadium. We also were at the top where I was afraid to
Oh yeah.
stand up. Like you're
Well, I was gonna say they packed that place even on a
yeah.
random like Monday, Tuesday night. That place is packed. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
The one of the like I grew or I lived in Colorado for a while, so Coors Field is really, really cool. That's a really
Yeah.
I've
fun,
heard it's
beautiful
beautiful.
stadium. One of the best stadiums experiences I've been to actually is the Los Angeles Angels. Um, I've
Really?
never
Okay.
I've never been to Dodger Stadium. I want to go to Dodger Stadium, but when we went to the Angels Stadium, um, we paid not even a fourth, probably a fifth of what we paid to go to the Angels game than we did to go to the Padres game 2 or 3 days later. And I think
Yeah.
they were both playing the Pirates. The Pirates were making their West Coast swing at that point. So we
Yeah.
saw them play, the same visiting team. But we were able to be so close at Angel Stadium. Like we were sitting by the stacked bullpens, which was really, really cool. And it was a really cool atmosphere, which surprised me somewhat, being that stadium, I think that stadium was built in 65 or 66, or 67, something like that. So, all right, next one.
All right.
Favorite baseball food. So stadium food, whatever.
Hot dog.
Okay.
Hot dog.
All right. I think I would agree with that. That's so
Honorable
this
mention has to go to soft serve in a souvenir helmet.
Yes.
okay. So you agree that everything is better when it's in a souvenir helmet.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
if I don't get a souvenir helmet, ice cream, soft serve at my games, my team doesn't win. That's
That
science.
that is one thing that I collect whenever we go somewhere. Is I'll try to collect those at the games. Getting a hat at each game has gotten a little more expensive to do. So
Yeah.
The
so soft
souvenir
serve
cups
ice
are
creams.
a
Yeah.
little bit,
More accessible.
a little bit, and like a little easier to stash away.
It's true.
So this next one, um, favorite, and I guess this next one probably does need a little bit of explanation, but favorite baseball stat.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't track stats. I am just here to have fun.
She's here for
Okay.
the
Um,
vibes.
I really am. I do know off the top of off the dome. I know Shohei has really good stats. So, congratulations, Shohei Ohtani, for having good stats.
Okay.
Um, I did explain this earlier because I'm a big Moneyball person. The number one stat that I look for is on base percentage.
Hmm.
On base percentage, I feel like is my favorite. We did also just do an episode with another content creator who covers a lot of Orioles content, and she specifically covers
Hmm.
statistics for the Orioles. So she has all different types of statistics on the team, not necessarily player statistics, but overall team statistics and things that you wouldn't even think to track.
Yeah.
But our favorite one that she has tracked is the winning percentages of the Orioles in all of their different uniform combinations.
I remember that episode and thinking like I love keeping up with stats. That's the
Yeah,
other thing that I really love about baseball. I really enjoyed that episode and her talking about like how many Excel sheets she has.
yeah.
And for me, just thinking about like she said she's not doing any of that. She doesn't get any of that from like the box scores. Like she's doing it on
She
her
does it by
own as
herself,
she's
which
watching.
is insane.
And like I used to do that when I kept up with like maybe 10 different things or 12 different things. Uh, I used to do that like when we would play rec ball. Now we are playing like it's I guess travel ball, although we don't really travel. And so we use the Game Changer app, and I absolutely love that because it will track so many things. And I mean, I'm laughing sometimes because it's like on 11 and 10-year-old kids. But like you can know what their OPS is and their slugging percentage, and like you can know what their ERA is and their the whiff rate and the whip for pitching. And it's
Yeah.
awesome. I recently came across a stat that I want to start keeping. I think it's gonna be really cool. Uh, it's from that account I said the woman goes by Brooke
Brooke
Knows
knows baseball.
Baseball.
Okay.
And she
I wrote her
referred
name
to it,
down so I can look her up because I want to look her
yeah,
up.
she referred to it as impact slugging percentage. So,
Okay.
and basically, like how slugging percentage takes account how many bases you get as a batter, but it
Yeah.
doesn't take into account if somebody's on base when you get that hit.
Right.
Um, and so basically, what she said impact slugging percentage would be if you get a double, then
Yeah.
instead of just getting two bases in slugging percentage, let's say there was a person on second that scored, well, you would actually get their base to third and to home as well. So you would get four bases
Yeah.
off of that rather than just
Okay.
two. And I
Kind of
really,
like,
really,
yeah, like OPS plus, plus,
yeah.
plus, plus, plus. I love that. Oh,
And
that's fantastic.
And like her idea is, it would change the way like you might go back to more traditional batting orders where someone like
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani possibly wouldn't be batting first. They might be
Yeah.
back
He
batting
might
second or
be,
third, where
yeah.
you could get more runs in.
Love that.
But I think the reason I really like it, really, I think it could be really important for like the kids at the youth age because again, it is difficult to understand. Hey, I got out at first base, but my coaches are telling me I should be happy because someone moved from second to third. If
Yeah.
you actually had a stat to show where, you didn't not get a base for that. You
You
actually got
show
one
what the
base because you moved
sacrifice was
somebody
for.
over. Um,
Yeah.
so
I feel like we should
I think
already
it's a
know
really
that.
cool thing to show them as well. Uh,
Definitely.
all right, there's two more.
Okay.
Um, one thing you would change about baseball.
Ooh. Okay. Um, I would make it all just like, actually, no. I would make it a rule that you have to tuck your pants into
I
your
knew it.
socks.
I knew she was going to say that. I knew it.
That that that's something my dad told me was important to him in a baseball player because according to him, if you left your pants out of your socks, it made you look like a little leaguer who hadn't learned how to play like a man yet. And
Okay.
I don't know, that really stuck with me.
Okay.
And
All
I think
right.
it would just make it a little bit sillier and a little bit more fun.
Okay.
That is such a good question. Um, I, man, oh my God. So a lot of what frustrated me this season and what has frustrated me a lot in the past has been the the unreviewable calls.
Hmm.
So the fact that ABS is coming in is going to quell a lot of what has frustrated me in the past. So I'm looking forward to ABS. I will go on record as saying I'm looking forward to ABS. Um, I do still think there should be a human umpire there, but I'm glad that ABS is going to be there to kind of act as like a fall safe for the really egregious calls. And so CB Buckner, we're watching. Um, Alex Tosi and I had a lot of beef with Alex Tosi this season. So, um, I at one point I was so mad at him. I was like, "You can meet me in the parking lot, sir." Um, but I honestly, I feel like I would like to see. Oh man, I would like to see more parity in the league, and I would like to see a salary cap, but I would also like to see a salary floor.
Okay. So interesting point. When I was a an undergrad, I actually my like mentor at that time taught the sport law classes. And so
Okay.
she worked with me and I entered like this sport law competition where we had to write a paper, we had to make a legal case. And my case was actually on the 1922 ruling that baseball did not have to fall under antitrust legislation,
Okay.
and how Congress really needed to revisit, or Congress needed to do something about that because since then, Congress has said the Supreme Court made the ruling, the Supreme Court wouldn't change because they said we've already made the ruling, Congress has to change it if they want to. Um, I I actually was saying, there should be a salary cap. However, the way without revisiting that ruling or without Congress saying that baseball does fall under antitrust legislation, um, if the more like in one of the collective bargaining agreements when I was making that argument, there was more revenue sharing that was coming down the pipeline. And so my
Okay.
argument was actually having more revenue sharing is infringing upon the rights of those teams that could spend a lot of money because the league doesn't fall under antitrust rule. So therefore, at that time, it was the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Astros. No, the Astros weren't spending money at that time, but like the teams that were spending a whole lot of money,
Yeah.
they actually they were within their rights to try and spend a lot more money than other teams. And like antitrust exists so that companies don't put other businesses out of business and everything. And it was actually within their right to like try to do that, to spend a lot more money if they could afford to do it. Um, I do think I would like to see some more revenue sharing or salary cap. Also, I being a kind of new and returning fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers also. I kind of I enjoy the arguments that people have about, there are a lot of teams that spend a lot of money. They just don't do it the correct way. Like they spend a lot of money and then they don't develop their talent the way other teams
Yeah.
do. And so it's kind of it's
It's a
something
catch
that
22.
yeah, it's a catch-22 that they have to do. One thing I would change about baseball is it's not really a rule. I look forward to the days when people go back to not focusing as much on pitch velocity and like because it's hurting pitchers. It's like they're throwing out their arms. People
I
see it
could
at the youth
soapbox
level.
about this for years, honestly. I really could. And I have a very similar argument to make about the current state of the new shows that hit Broadway. Everything is all about how high can you belt and
Yep.
all of this. We've lost a lot of technique for singers, and singers don't have as much longevity because they're doing so much damage to their
Yep.
voices trying to belt a,
Yep.
a mile high song 8 times a week. And it's the same with Major League Baseball pitchers.
It's
They're trying to rip their shoulders off, throwing 105 miles an hour and throw some kind of like wicked new, like torture spin pitch and trying to contort their arm to do some kind of weird, unnatural shoving motion. And I love people like Mason Miller, but I need Mason Miller to slow down. Otherwise, he's gonna rip his arm off, and
yeah.
he's gonna need Tommy John within the next 2 years.
It's I think a lot of it has to do with it's the viral moment that
Yes,
you know Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine when they were throwing, they weren't they weren't throwing 100 plus miles per hour. So if they were playing like today, they wouldn't get viral moments. Like you get viral
yeah,
moments. It's the same thing, like, viral moment, like you talked about in Broadway. Like if somebody's able to do that, well, that's what the show's releasing because it shows how talented these people are. And so they're really straining themselves and hurting themselves. I also wish from the hitter's perspective, I look forward to the days when there's more focus on contact. There's less
small ball,
focus on
come on.
like, exit velocity
Yeah,
and things like that.
Nice.
The last one
okay.
is because I'm not sure if this will come out the week before Christmas or the week between Christmas and New Year's. So
Okay,
the question is,
okay.
what would be one Christmas present or New Year's wish you have for baseball? And by that, it could be baseball in general. It could be
I know what
your
mine is.
favorite team, a player, whatever. So, what
Um,
Christmas present or New Year's wish would you have for baseball?
what baseball related thing am I asking, Sam?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose as a lifelong Twins fan, I hope the Pullets are able to sell the team finally after 30
Okay.
years of trying, so many years of trying to sell the team.
Okay.
Um, uh, and also but also with a caveat to another Minnesota family.
Okay. All
Important to
right.
me that the Minnesota Twins ownership stays within the Twins in the
Stays
state.
All
local.
right.
State.
Very good.
My wish for Santa is please give Ryan O'Hearn a big fat contract. because he's in free agency right now. So, and there's been little to no information about where he's going to land in the off season. I know winter meetings just happened, and I know that there was a lot of like big moves. The Orioles just signed Pete Alonso, so that was a big move. But we have heard some scuttlebuzz around some other favorite players. Cedric Mullins just went to the Rays, so we get to see him a bunch next year, which is
Okay.
really exciting. Santa, if Rhino Hearn could also come to the Rays with a big fat contract, I would not mind. Um, but yeah, I he is my favorite baseball player, and I wish nothing but the best for him. And
Oh, also safe New Year for Hannah O'Hearn.
Yes,
she's gonna have a baby.
yeah,
Oh,
she's
okay.
about to,
Okay.
yeah, they're about to have a baby.
Very good.
So
Very good. Very fun.
big fat
Um,
contract for Rhino Hearn.
I think immediately what I would want, being, as I said, being kind of a new and returning Dodgers fan. And I think it's going to happen. I've seen rumors. Last week I even thought it did happen, but I don't think it's official yet. I want Kike Hernandez to be back with the Dodgers. I would like him
Yeah.
to finish with them, kind of do like a Miguel Rojas thing where Rojas is playing one more year and then he's going to be like player development after that. I would like to see that
Yeah.
with Kike Hernandez because I think it's fun watching him, but also I think it's important. It's really cool when players in today's age play
Yeah.
with the same team. And I think that's
Yeah,
really
I
cool,
think so
or
too.
with a team for a long period of time.
I would
So,
like to see Kike Hernandez end up somewhere in sports entertainment. I don't necessarily know if like player development is going to be in his wheelhouse or not necessarily in his wheelhouse, but in his future. But I would, he's such an engaging personality that I would love to see him
So
somewhere
much
in
charisma.
sports
well,
journalism.
so it's sports journalism, commentary, studio show, or whatever. But he is he is probably one of the Major League Baseball players that could make the easiest transition to like a banana ball as anyone
Oh,
because
absolutely.
he already
Easily.
is so engaging
He's
with
playing
that.
banana ball for the Dodgers.
Yeah, basically.
And I say that with so much love and respect in my heart.
The so that's what I have. Um
Okay.
Thank you so much both of you for coming and talking. This was amazing. I felt like I was at times I wanted to keep asking and I wanted to keep um, talking about things to prove that like I'm on your level of like baseball fandom or knowledge. So
Please.
um, if for people who want to find you that haven't yet, where is the best place to find Glove Actually?
Yes. So we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts currently. You can find us at Glove Actually. On Instagram and Threads, we are Glove Actually Pod. So if you'd like to follow us there, all of our like individual episode content is there, as well as our preview reels end up there. If there's anything that you think would be a good topic for us to talk about, feel free to leave us a comment. DM us. We check our DMs literally all the time.
We meaning Courtney.
We meaning Courtney.
Well,
But yes.
and you are extremely um, good at response rate. Like
Thank
you
you.
respond really
Appreciate
quickly.
it.
So it made setting this up really easy. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, Courtney,
We're gonna have to have
Hallie.
you come on at some point to talk about stuff and someday, let us know. We'll come back. We'll talk more.
Yeah, if I will, I'll come on and if there's a topic you want, or if you want me to come up with something, or just the issue is I come and you're probably gonna have to edit out an hour and a half if I'm on there because I'm not
Oh no.
I'm not
That's not already what she's
No.
having to do.
yeah
Exactly.
I'm not very short-winded as you could tell.
It's
So,
okay.
um,
None of us are.
but thank you so much for coming
Of
and
course.
have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much for
You as
having us.
well.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.